Picture this. You walk into the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in the middle of Queens, New York. You're expecting the classic American Grand Slam atmosphere. Crisp applause, vendor shouts, jazz music over the venue speakers. Instead, you hear thousands of voices singing in Tagalog. You see a sea of Philippine flags covering every single row of the stands. Security guards are standing near the entrances, looking around in utter disbelief. At that precise moment, a top WTA player on the other side of the net turns to her coaching box and asks a simple question. Where did all these people come from? What happened in New York wasn't just a tennis match, it was a cultural takeover. To understand why New York suddenly felt like Manila, we have to talk about what tennis usually looks like on the global stage. For over a century, professional tennis has been dominated by traditional powerhouses, countries with multi-million-dollar national federations, private elite academies, and endless grass and clay court facilities. In the Philippines, sports culture is legendary, but it revolves around two unstoppable forces: basketball and boxing. Manny Pacquiao didn't just win fights, he literally stopped traffic across the entire country every time he stepped into the ring. PBA basketball packs arenas every single week. Tennis, on the other hand? Tennis was viewed as something distant, a sport played on manicured lawns thousands of miles away in Western nations, until Alex Eala picked up a racket at 4 years old. She wasn't born into a billionaire sports dynasty. Her mother, Riza, was a former SEA Games swimming medalist who understood what real athletic discipline looked like. Her grandfather introduced her to the basic mechanics of a grip. But by the time Alex turned 12, local coaches saw something in her that went beyond technique. It wasn't just that her forehand was fast, it was her eyes. In high-pressure tiebreaks where other kids shrank under the stress, Alex leaned forward. Her raw talent earned her a spot at the prestigious Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, Spain. But let's stop and think about what that actually means. Imagine being a 13-year-old kid. You leave your parents, your friends, your home-cooked meals, and your entire comfort zone. You move to an island in Europe where you don't speak the native language fluently. You spend 6 hours a day in brutal heat, hitting ball after ball under the eyes of coaches who demand absolute perfection. Was she homesick? She was crying herself to sleep on many nights. Did she complain to the media? Not once. Have you ever wondered what keeps an athlete going when they are completely alone in a foreign country? For Alex, it was never about personal ego or building a trophy case for herself. She knew that every single win was sending a message back to young kids in Manila and Cebu. We belong on this court just as much as anyone else. In 2022, she made her first major headline in America right here in Flushing Meadows, becoming the first Filipino player in history to win a junior Grand Slam singles title. The global media showered her with praise, but behind closed doors, tennis analysts held back. They said, "Junior titles are great stories, but the professional WTA tour is a meat grinder. She doesn't have the serve speed or physical weight to survive against the world's top 50. And for a while, the critics looked right. The jump from junior tennis to the pro tour is one of the hardest transitions in all of sports. You go from playing kids your own age to facing seasoned veterans who hit 115-mile-per-hour serves and have spent 10 years perfecting their court movement. Alex suffered painful losses, first-round exits in small ITF tournaments, physical fatigue from traveling across 3 continents in a single month, crushing losses where she had match points and let them slip away. Most teenage players lose their confidence during this phase. They change their strokes, they doubt their strategy, or they burn out entirely. Alex didn't change her strategy. She doubled down on her conditioning. And then came the moment that served as a warning shot to the entire sporting world. The Mubadala DC Open in Washington, D.C. Torrential rain had battered the venue for 2 straight days, pushing matches into a rare Monday afternoon schedule. In professional tennis, Monday afternoon matches are notorious for dead atmospheres. Stadiums are usually 90% empty because fans are at work. Tournament organizers prepared for a quiet, low-key day. Instead, something extraordinary happened at the gates. Thousands of fans began pouring through the turnstiles. Entire families dressed in red, white, and blue. Banners written in Tagalog were hung over the railings. People had taken off work, driven 4 hours from Virginia and Maryland, and bought out whole sections of the stadium. Alex was facing American top seed and world top 10 star Jessica Pegula. On paper, Pegula was expected to comfortably control the match. In reality, the moment Alex hit her first winner, the stadium roared with the intensity of a championship final. Pegula won the first set 6-4, but Alex didn't break. Powered by the electric energy in the stands, she began taking the ball on the rise, breaking Pegula's serve repeatedly to win the second set 6-4, and then completely sweeping the third set 6-0. A stunned Jessica Pegula walked up to the microphone after the match, looked around at the crowd, and said, "I can officially confirm this is the best Monday crowd I have ever played in front of in my life." The tournament organizers were in shock. Media outlets officially coined a new phrase, the Eala Effect. And if Washington, D.C. was a warning shot, New York was about to be the full explosion. When the draw for the U.S. Open was released, tournament ticket algorithms flagged an abnormal surge. Passes for outer courts and early round matches, which normally sell gradually, were disappearing in minutes. Across the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, a massive grassroots movement was taking place. Filipino community groups, university student clubs, and local business owners had organized through WhatsApp chats and Facebook groups, buying up entire rows of the grandstand court. On the day of her match, as fans stepped off the 7 train at Willets Point, the atmosphere felt completely different from any standard Grand Slam day. The smell of local street food was in the air as fans gathered outside the gates. People were distributing hand-drawn posters, mini flags, and custom shirts featuring Alex's signature rallying cry. When Alex stepped onto the court for her match, the acoustic sound inside the grandstand structure transformed instantly. Every time she won a point, the metal bleachers vibrated. Every time she missed a shot, instead of quiet groans, thousands of voices immediately shouted, "Bawi Alex, kaya mo yan," which translates to, "Get it back Alex, you can do this." Have you ever witnessed what happens to an athlete when an entire stadium refuses to let them feel tired? In professional tennis, players are trained to operate in near silence. Umpires constantly hold up their hands and say, "Quiet please, players are serving." But here, the umpire was practically helpless. The crowd was an active participant in every single point. Local security guards, who are used to standing stone-faced during long summer shifts, pulled out their personal phones to record the crowd. Tournament vendors ran out of cold drinks in the surrounding concourse because nobody wanted to leave their seats. An international broadcast commentator covering the match paused mid-sentence, pulled his headphones off one ear to listen to the stadium, and said live on air, "I've been covering the U.S. Open for 20 years. I don't think we are in New York anymore. This feels like a home match in Manila." So, how did the match actually play out? Because sports screenwriters couldn't have written a more dramatic script if they tried. Her opponent was Danish star Clara Tauson, a ferocious hitter seeded 14th in the tournament, possessing a serve that routinely tops 110 miles per hour and ground strokes that push opponents 3 feet behind the baseline. Tauson wasn't intimidated by the crowd. In fact, she used the noise as motivation. After losing a tight first set 6-3, Tauson recalibrated her game, taking total control of the second set 6-2 with heavy baseline power. By the time they reached the final deciding set, momentum had completely swung. Tauson broke Alex's serve twice in a row, racing out to a terrifying 5-1 lead, 5-1 in a deciding set of a Grand Slam match. To put this into perspective for non-tennis fans, a 5-1 lead in tennis is the equivalent of being down 20 points in the fourth quarter of a basketball game. Tauson was serving for the match. Alex was 1 game away from elimination. Fans watching live stream broadcasts back home in the Philippines at 3:08 a.m. were crushed. Commentators were already speaking in hushed tones, preparing their recap of her tournament exit. Alex walked to her bench during the changeover. She wiped her face with her towel. She didn't look at her coach. She didn't look down at the ground. She looked straight up into the stands. She saw elderly grandmothers who had taken the 5 a.m. subway from Queens. She saw young kids wearing tennis shoes holding signs. She saw grown men holding back tears while holding the flag high in the air. When an entire community gives you their belief, how do you give up on a single point? Alex stood up from the bench, grabbed her racket, and walked back to the baseline. What followed over the next 30 minutes will be studied by tennis coaches for years. Point by point, stroke by stroke, Alex began changing the geometry of the court. Instead of trying to overpower Towson, she started hitting deep, heavy topspin balls that forced Towson to hit from uncomfortable heights. 5-2, Alex holds serve. The crowd noise jumps a notch. 5-3, Alex breaks Towson's serve with a brilliant forehand, passing shot down the line. The stadium bleachers literally begin shaking underfoot. Towson, feeling the suffocating weight of 3,000 chanting fans, begins to look nervous. Her toss becomes inconsistent. She double faults on a critical point. 5-4. Alex holds serve again. 5-5. The impossible has happened. The third set is tied. The match was pushed into a forehand winner into the deep corner. Match point. Towson tossed the ball, hit a heavy second serve, and her final forehand return sailed 2 inches over the baseline. 6-3, 2-6, 7-6. The moment the ball landed out, Alex dropped her racket and fell straight to her knees on the hardcourt surface, burying her face in her hands. She wept openly in front of millions of viewers worldwide, not just because she had won a match, but because she had just become the first Filipino player in history to win a main draw match at a Grand Slam in the professional era. When she walked to the center court microphone for her post-match interview, she couldn't speak for the first 15 seconds. The roar from the stands was simply too loud for the audio microphones to handle. When her voice finally came through the stadium speakers, she wiped away tears and said, "I take so much pride in representing my country. To everyone who came out today, you didn't just watch me play, you made New York feel like home. This win isn't mine alone. It belongs to all of us." Even foreign superstars took notice. ATP top 10 player Felix Auger-Aliassime later remarked in an interview, "Having the Filipino fan base behind you is unlike anything else in world sports. She carries the heart of an entire nation every time she steps onto the court." What Alex Eala proved in New York is that athletic greatness isn't determined by where you come from or how traditional your background is. It is defined by the heart you bring to the game and the community that stands behind you. If this story inspired you today, hit that subscribe button right now so you never miss a video, and click right here on your screen to watch our breakdown of another unforgettable moment in sporting history.